The Reformed Gamers is brought to you 100% independent and ad-free thanks to our dear patrons over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. To get yourself sweet perks such as early access to all of our episodes, special episodes of the podcast, and more, head over to patreon.com/thereformedgamers today and consider lending support to the show. Without further ado, let's hop into the show. Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 152 of The Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, revisiting Koholint Island for a second time. I'm your host, Logan.
And I am his co-host, Adam.
Adam, I know we're going to get into this, but man, Link's Awakening. Wow.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's got an addictive crane game that if it was on a mobile device, I'd be convinced it was part of some creepy, scummy, mobile money-grabbing mechanic. But I spend a lot of time in there, and I enjoy it.
It's the little things in life, and in Zelda. It is, man.
Well, you see, I gotta get the Yoshi doll for that cute little girl, right? I can't just leave her at home crying and stuff because she doesn't have a Yoshi doll. I gotta help her out, and that's what the Hero Time does, right? Doesn't just save the world.
It's like the one amiibo that I always wish I would have got. I mean, I always still could, but the old Yarny amiibos.
Oh,
it's basically just the Yoshi dolls. You can set their butt on the amiibo thing or whatever. Those ones were always super cute.
I'll remember that. We got Christmas coming up. It'll be here before you know it. I'll remember that. Might hook you up. So that actually reminds me, Adam, a little bit of story time. I have a problem. Okay, my Metroid fan, whatever you want to call that addiction thing or whatever it is, my fandom, I don't know, has reached a new level to where, I mean, it already doesn't help that I don't have really hardly any self-control when it comes to buying things. But one of my friends texted me this 2020 calendar for Super Metroid. It has like covers from the different games and all that jazz. It's styled like the games. And I was like, oh, that's cool looking. I looked at it on Amazon. I was like, oh, $12. Okay, bought. And then as I was browsing through Twitter, saw another thing for a 6-inch, not like an amiibo, but like a 6-inch World of Nintendo Metroid replica that you could like move the jaws on it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. $14, bought. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop because pretty soon I'm gonna be having Metroids all over the place. I'm gonna be having a giant suit of Samus just up somewhere in my house.
Did you ever get the amiibos?
Oh, dude, you know I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can jump in this. I'll jump in on your story time. So originally, you know me, King of Thrift, buying and selling, trying to make that dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought some when they were kind of really hard to find, and I was trying to flip them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when I got it from Nintendo, because I think for some reason it was on their website, I bought it because they were like the only place available.
Yeah.
My box came super damaged, like water damage. So I'm like, crap, I can't sell this. So I called Nintendo. They shipped me another one.
Oh,
so I ended up getting to sell that one and I got to keep the old one. So I basically got a set for free because they're like, don't worry about shipping it back. You know, you just keep it. I'm like, man, it really worked out good for me. So I actually have the pair, the Metroid and then the little alien it was for what? Metroid 2? On the
for Return of Samus. Yeah, man. Wow, that did work out for you. Those
doesn't happen all the time. Recently, I tried to flip a couple, and I'm like, I buy them off like GameStop. The last 2 times I've tried to buy collector's editions to flip them, they weren't really going for a price that was worth my time. So I'm like taking these big, huge collector's edition boxes back to GameStop to return, and they're like, "No one in the parking lot tried to buy this off you." I'm like, "No, just." Give me my money back. And they're like, all right.
It's like, man, not even random strangers on the internet would buy it off me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ain't nobody
I got this huge Borderlands 3 collector's edition, and I'm like, this thing's cool, but, I struggled once, and it got me thinking I could do it every time. Yeah. And I've yet to make the money like I made on the one Kingdom Hearts collector's edition, but I better stop talking or somebody's going to get all triggered because I buy and sell stuff.
Probably. But I did that recently. It's funny because I did that recently with because GameStop had their like Pro Day sale or something like that, and I picked up a copy. Well, I went in there originally to buy a copy of Bloodstained for the Switch, because I'm like, that's where I want to play it the most. I feel like I'll actually finish the game on the Switch. So I bought it, but I couldn't really track it with the code they gave me. So I just thought that they canceled the order. It was an accident. It was a glitch. So I bought another copy. And when I got both of them in the mail, I was like, oh, well, I got this for like $8 because of their deal. I wonder if I could just put it on eBay. And I managed to get back a pretty good profit on it. So I'm like,
nice.
All right, well, I'll just do that then. So, it is what it is.
Capitalism.
I love it. We don't get political on the show, but capitalism is a cool thing. We should probably stop talking.
Everything is worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
Anyways, yeah, you can send out your hate mail to Logan's email.
Don't put my email out there again. I'm still reeling from that dude who was mad at us that one time that we were making jokes about Grand Theft Auto and people who play him.
Oh, jeez.
And then he was like, well, you guys play Bloodborne. And I'm like, I was just kidding, man. Calm down. Yeah. Like, I literally have GTA 4, but it is what it is. We tend to get in trouble on this show, so we should probably stop talking. I think that's why people enjoyed having our wives on the most, is because, we just don't run our mouths. Exactly. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the show. But before we do, dear listeners, we're going to get into a little bit of housekeeping. As always, go over to youtube.com/thereformedgamers to check out some new content. You can see the first 2 videos of Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch. You can check that out, as well as what's on my PS4. The SNES tour thing as well is on there. Just go check it out. There's a lot of content going up on there as well. And then we even have some more content on our website now as well, thanks to Henshin Dad. Shout out to him. Go check out his podcast, Henshin Dad Podcast. He wrote some articles for us, and he's still writing articles for us about a retrospective, looking at Pokemon and its history through the generations, leading up to the release of Pokemon Sword and Shield. So y'all can join that hype train. We also have... He wrote a primer for Dragon Quest, the first 3 games that are coming out. Well, by the time this episode comes out, they'll already be out. So it'll just help you pick which of the original trilogy you should pick up if you have a Switch. And then he also wrote another article about whether or not you should pick up Dragon Quest 11 on the Switch. Spoiler, yes, if you're into JRPGs. And then yeah, of course, just put my I can't talk. Words are hard. Just put my review for Control up there as well, so you guys can check that out and just really read everything. It's kind of cool seeing all the different things going on with TRG here, with how we're interacting with people on social media, putting out content. It feels like we're a legit thing. Like we're growing, we're evolving.
Like we've done 152 podcast episodes.
There we go. We've been around the block. We've been around a while. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's cool. So definitely go check that stuff out, dear listeners. As always, if you like what we do here on the show, you can always support us over on patreon.com. Pledges as low as $1 a month go a long way in helping us continue to do what we do here on the show. It also gets you sweet perks like early uncut access to all of our episodes, including our YouTube content. And then you can also, depending on what tier you go, you can get a behind the scenes podcast. You can get access to our Patreon Discord, custom Discord roles, and things of that nature. So definitely do that. But if you want to be a freeloader, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. If you just, you can't support us financially, another way you can help us out immensely is by rating us and reviewing us on your podcast app of choice, because that'll help out with the algorithm. That will kind of move us around in the ratings. And so that will kind of put us in front of new potential dear listeners. So, like I said, if you can't support us on Patreon, that's okay. You just do that if you want. That's there for you. But definitely rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. That'll help us out a long way as well. But without further ado, let's get into the show. And we start off the show like we always do with a little bit of what have we been playing. And Adam, man, it looks like you've been getting into a lot, man. Tell us about your gaming extravaganza.
Yeah, I got a little list here now. I haven't gone deep in all of these, but as I was saying in the pre-show, my wife was out of town. She went back to Michigan to visit some family last week, and so I did some different things. Had some people over for board game night, went golfing, made sure I didn't just sit at home and play video games all week, but I definitely carved out some decent time to binge play, because I'm like, I don't get these weeks all the time. So I was like, I need to rest. I've got some big stuff coming up, last weekend. So I went hard in some areas. One of them was Days Gone. So I thought I was close to that game, finishing that game like 7 times, but it kept going and
That
going.
sounds about right.
And going. I was like, I'm about to lose my mind if this game doesn't end soon. Like literally days were going by.
Days were gone.
Days were gone as I tried to finish this game. It was amazing that the ending took forever. But all that said, it was a great game. I really enjoyed it. I wish it was 20 hours shorter. I wish it was at least 15 hours shorter. There was a really amazing 25 to 30 hour game. The only problem is the game was probably closer to 40 to 50 hours, depending. And that was without doing a ton of side stuff. There was more side stuff. There was a while where I'm just like, I got to stop doing side stuff if I'm ever going to finish this game.
Yeah.
But I really like what they did with some of the story stuff towards the end. Some of it was a little frustrating. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want to pull any spoilers. And we'll maybe do an episode at some point. But I'm like, if this and this happened, that would not have been a normal human being's reaction. Like, I know they had seen some stuff, but yeah. So really enjoyed it. Really glad I finished it. Really glad I played it. No regrets at all, except for just how long that game was. So played that. Tried my best, to some degree, to beat Marvel Alliance 3 before Link's Awakening came out. So I went, and that game's not super long, so I'm pretty sure I'm close to the end. But I just kept getting distracted with, other games. One of them being Borderlands 3. And so I got that, I think on Monday. That makes sense. And then, so I got with my wife being gone, I was able to play that with some friends, played with my buddy Isaac. I think I'm level 14 or 15. So we had a couple good binge sessions where we could play for, 3 hours at a time or so, just to try to make some headway. I haven't really even played it by myself yet. I've really mainly just played with him. But, I have no idea what's going on in the story. I mean, very little idea. I kept being like, because Isaac, he's a big Borderlands guy. He loves it.
Yeah, I noticed.
And so, so we're playing and he's already done this or that. And I'm like, we're just going from mission to mission to mission to mission to mission. And then I'm just trying to keep up half the time. And I'm like, dude, I got no idea what's going on in the story. He'll try to update me a little bit. But most of the time it was just from what I have got from listening to different podcasts, depending on who you're talking to, a lot of people don't really like the story. I'll catch some jokes and stuff like that. But the gunplay is great. They're fun. I finally got some of the cool, different guns where they can become turrets and stuff like that. There was one point where I was talking with Hannah on the phone, and I probably played for 30, 40 minutes with that on mute, and I was having just as much fun. And so, definitely not a necessity, but it's definitely it's a good time. Have you played much Borderlands 3?
Yeah, I'm a couple hours in. I was gonna ask which character did you pick?
Zane.
Zane, okay, the guy with the drone.
So I've got the hologram. That's the kind of the skill filtering through.
Yeah, I rolled with I think her name's Mose. She's the one with the
Siren,
Mac. Yeah. No, the Mac. I don't know what her name is.
I'm trying to remember. I can't think. You had Flack, Mose, Zane, and I can't remember the last one.
I can't remember. I think it's just because I play with people who just haven't played as that character. But yeah, it's cool. I like it. As far as the gameplay goes, I'll agree. The story is just, but then again, I never really played the Borderlands games for the story. I don't go to it for that. It's there and I'll pay attention and laugh when stuff is funny. And I've definitely laughed at this one, but there's been some parts where it is definitely cringy. The Calypso twins, their YouTube stuff. I'm like, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's just kind of cringy. And I don't know if it's supposed to be that way, but yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I haven't really found any really cool guns like all my friends have. I had one friend, he found the bazooka that shoots out cheeseburgers, and I'm like, how do I get that? That sounds awesome. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it's just, as I've listened to other podcasts too, I'm realizing that I'm kind of more in the camp of, I think I like Borderlands 2 a little bit better in some areas, but I don't know. I think I need to get into Borderlands 3 a little bit more and see if that changes, because we all know how my flip-flops are. Do it a lot. So I don't want to say anything that'll get me in trouble, but what I've played so far, I've enjoyed it. It's not bad. I like their split screen co-op.
I'm looking forward to getting some more time, even solo, in to kind of get to hear some more of the. It's definitely got its issues.
Yeah.
I didn't really know. I noticed it, but I couldn't tell what was off. But after listening to the map is jacked up, the menus are crazy laggy.
Very laggy.
Half the time I'm trying to do something, and by the time the screen actually moves, I'm on a different screen because I didn't know if it was registering. So it's got its issues for sure.
And those issues are way worse when you do split screen co-op. It just if you both open up the menus at the same time, forget
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those things are frustrating because I'm just trying to fix my add a point to my skill tree or something like that, and it's just glitch. But there's some other things that are smooth. I mean, warping to the vehicle was pretty smooth if you're playing with multiplayer. So some of those things were nice, but not a perfect game. But it's a fun game. So
yeah, for sure.
Been playing some more of that. And then I know we'll get into a little bit more of this later, but we got into it a little bit already, but played some of Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda. So it's the first time I've ever played it.
Nice.
Really it's an endearing game. I told Hannah when she got home, I'm I can't wait to show you the Zelda game. It's just a cute game. And it's one that I think that she could watch if she wanted to.
Or even play herself.
She don't get down like that.
Yeah, we'll see.
She don't get down like that. I'm thinking this will, since we'll get into that conversation more, maybe when you're talking about what you've been playing. But what I'd like to maybe have her check out is the Apple Arcade. So I downloaded my free trial, or I got my free trial going today. And I was looking at some of the games, and she plays some of the Bejeweled.
Yeah,
She's playing this home decorating game where you've got the line up 3 in a row. And I was looking at games to play, and that Grindstone game looks like one. I know some people have talked about that, but it seems like it's a similar style of game. Now, the design she wouldn't necessarily be down for, but I'm hey, this could be another game that she gets into. So I'm going to be playing around with that. The main thing I want to play, I was trying to plug seeing my PlayStation 4 controller with my phone when I was at work. I took one of my old ones in.
Yeah.
But I think the controller was dead. So I'm what's going on here? So I'm dang it. So
you haven't gotten it to work yet?
Yeah. But I'm hoping to play Oceanhorn 2. That's the main game that I really want to play.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the first one. So I'm hoping to play Oceanhorn 2. I don't know if I'll keep up the membership, but we're going to try. As I was downloading it, I'm why am I even doing this? If I'm going to play a video game at work, just start taking – I never take my Switch in. But I'm I should just start taking my Switch in, or I could take my Vita in.
Yeah.
Or I could probably do remote play on my PS4 from my one at home. There's a lot of options. I just don't know. I'm going to try Apple Arcade just to check it out.
Yeah.
Being the games journalist that we are. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that I keep. So, that's a lot of games and stuff that I've talked about, but that's kind of where I've been.
I was going to piggyback on the Apple Arcade because I signed up for the free trial too, just to try it out. And the only 2 games I've really downloaded so far is Spaceland, which is a strategy XCOM kind of game, and surprisingly good. I like it. It's fun. I don't really care for the story. I wish they would have just kept that out, but it's fun. I want to try the Sayonara Hearts game too, because a buddy of mine was telling me he had been playing it and he really enjoyed it, and I was okay, I'll try it out. So, but yeah, I'm kind of in the same thing. I always bring my Switch with me to work, so if I'm going to play something for a couple minutes, I usually just pull out my Switch and pop open, Creature in the Well or Street Fighter or something like that, and play it for a little bit. So, I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned, dear listeners. We'll see what we'll give you. Our thoughts. I might turn that into a blog post, actually. That'd be some good content to go over and just talk about our experience with it. But yeah, as far as what I've been playing then, already talked about Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. Just another plug again. You can go check out the first 2 hours, not 2 hours, the first 2 episodes I put onto our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thereformedgamers and check that out. Cool game. I remember playing this on the Game Boy and not getting very far because, again, If you guys have watched my Super Metroid videos, I always talk about how dumb little baby Logan was. He didn't really understand these puzzles and all that. But it's cool to see the stuff that I remember playing as a kid, but with a whole new coat of paint and just some new things in there. It's cool. I'm really enjoying the game. I don't have anything bad really to say about the game. It's really good. And then playing that really right off the heels of finishing A Link to the Past has actually helped me out quite a bit, because I remember some things that worked in that game that apply to this game. And so as soon as I got the magic powder, I was like, oh, dude, I remember how this is kind of like the lamp then in A Link to the Past. So I know what to do with some of the stuff and use it on enemies. And so it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool to play that back to back after finishing A Link to the Past. So yeah, finish Link to the Past. I guess I could mention that briefly for the first time ever recently. So cool game. Thank you, Nintendo, for putting Super Nintendo games on the Switch and allowing that to happen. But yeah, Link's Awakening is great. Really enjoying it. And the game I really want to spend a good amount of time talking about is Control, which is Remedy's new game. Dear listeners, you can go check out my full review on our website, thereformedgamers.com. I'll actually just put a link to it in your show notes to make it easier for you. So here's my thing. I love Remedy. Alan Wake, loved that game on the 360. Quantum Break, played it on Xbox One. It wasn't like, here's the thing, Quantum Break isn't like amazing, but it's a pretty decent game. I didn't really care for the live action.
I haven't played any of them, but I heard it had neat concepts.
Yeah, and it was cool. And it's cool because you see some of those similar concepts in Control, actually, with like the powers and some of the different animations. So, I mean, it's cool. It was a decent game. I wish it wasn't just siloed off onto Xbox. I know you can get it on PC, but I wish it would have been on PS4 also, because I think it would have just been cool to have more people playing it. I think it would have just sold better anyway, but we're not talking about Quantum Break. So when I got to Control, I was kind of like, okay, I know what to expect from Remedy. Loved Alan Wake. Quantum Break was fun. Hopefully I think this one is going to be a safe bet. And yes, it was, but actually no. One of those situations. I tweeted this out when I tweeted out the review, was that the game kind of left me really conflicted because I spent a lot more time being frustrated with the game than I was actually enjoying it. And I think what it was is, or what it is about this game specifically that just made it hard for me to enjoy it. It wasn't the weird story. I actually thought the weird story was pretty cool, and I liked investigating and picking up documents and reading those and watching videos and getting into that. I did the same thing in Alan Wake and really enjoyed it there. So that made it better for me because I really enjoyed picking that stuff up. But I think it's just because of how they designed this game to be more of like a Metroidvania, in the sense that you go into the oldest house, which is where the Federal Bureau of Control is. And I guess I should preface this. You're going to this building because you're looking for your brother, and then weird stuff starts happening, and you wind up becoming the director of this facility, and now you're trying to figure out what's going on in the building. And so it's built like a Metroidvania, which is fine. I love Metroidvanias, obviously, but the tools that they give you just kind of get in the way. And what I mean is, one of the things about Metroidvania is what really make or break a Metroidvania, a good Metroidvania, is the map. If you don't have a map that you can't navigate, you're going to be frustrated. And this game has a 2D map that's like top down, but you can't really register what path to take to get to your objective. And so there was several instances where I was lost for maybe an hour and a half trying to figure out where I was supposed to even go. So I would look up a guide or something and watch a video, and I was like, I still don't really know where I'm going.
Yeah, this guide still isn't helpful.
Yeah, so it was frustrating. And so I think if they would have just given me a map that it was 3D, that I could rotate and maybe leave some markers on or something to remember where to go, I think that would have helped. Or they could have even just kept a 2D map, but do it like Super Metroid did on the SNES, where it's flat, it's 2D, but you still see kind of where things are, and you can actually read pretty easily where the rooms are and stuff like that. I don't know if they could have done that in this game, but so I think that really just kept me from enjoying the game, because I just got lost so much. And I would even be paying attention to the signs, the different markers in the building, and I was still getting lost. And I was like, man, I kind of wish this wasn't such a Metroidvania. I wish it was more linear like their past games. You could still give me side stuff to do, but I wish it was more linear to where I wasn't running into this problem so much. And then you combine that with the huge difficulty spikes on boss fights. I was like, man, this is just a frustrating game to play, but I don't know. I don't necessarily recommend the game. I mean, like I've always said to your listeners, if you want to play a game, just rent it and see what you think. But I think my favorite parts in this game was when I just got to use my powers and go crazy with those, because that's really where the game shines the most. Is like, this is awesome. It's the closest thing to an X-Men game we'll get, I think, is what one review said that I read. So I don't know. I'm definitely not loving Control as much as some other folks are, but I don't necessarily hate it. I'm just kind of like, it's okay. It's an okay game, so
yeah.
That's kind of where I am. Dear listeners, like I said, if you want to see more, or if you want to read more of my thoughts on it, you can go check out the review, but maybe that was enough to just steer you away and keep you playing Legend of Zelda or whatever game it is, Dragon Quest, anything like that.
You know what Metroidvania game was good?
What's that?
That Song of the Deep. Did you ever play that game?
I didn't. Did they give that away with PS Plus 1 month?
Probably. I don't know. It was like $5 when I bought it, but that was a fun game. Good map. A lot of, great art style. So whenever I hear like Metroidvania maps, for whatever reason, that's one of those games that kind of comes to me.
Really?
Of course, there's a lot of other ones, Hollow Knight and stuff like that, but there was something special about Song of the Deep. I really enjoyed it.
I might pick that up, actually. I keep forgetting to pick that game because I remember you talking about it for a while here on the show. I need to look into that.
Just wait for a sale, man. It's gonna pop up for. Well, no, it's always on sale.
I was gonna see if I had it, is what I was saying, like, because I feel like it was
you
free.
might actually have it.
So I might have it. Who knows? I might have bought it already. I just forgot about it.
Backlogs and finances.
I tend to forget the backlog and just build it. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been playing. Been trying to not juggle games so much because I realize I don't really get a whole lot of stuff done when I do that. So I'm trying to narrow that down, but I'm sure I'll still jump between games because I have no self-control as usual. But let's get into a little bit of what have we been reading. Adam, man, what you been into recently?
Yeah, so we were saying this on the pre-show. Like, my reading is just like disappeared. Like, at least books, just for kicks and giggles. I'm either trying to get some gaming time in, spending time with family, doing life and ministry. It's just a different stage in life. I got to figure it out because I like to read, and I've bought a lot of books that I should read. But so still reading George Mueller biography for work. But I was did a little mini retreat yesterday morning and was just reading and praying and trying to discern some different things that God has for some different ministries. And I was reading in read through Psalm 119 in and of itself. And it's just so long. Mm-hmm. But what was really challenging to me is that how often it talks about loving the Word of God, loving God's statutes, keeping God's commandments. Those are the things that the psalmist was passionate about. And it was really a big challenge to me because I'm like, I want to say that that's where I'm at. I want to say that, I turn my feet to your testimonies. I keep your commandments. I hasten and do not delay to keep your commandments. I'm like, if anything, I do the opposite. I delay to keep his commandments. Like I'm so often I find myself neglecting being obedient or delaying it because it's uncomfortable or I've got what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so it was really just a good challenge to me as I was reading it and just looking at some different things in my life that I got to begin adjusting. I'm finding like, okay, Adam, you're neglecting things. Well, why is it? Well, I love sleep more than I love some things that I should, than getting up and spending more time with God and His Word and in prayer. And that's most of the time I set my alarm and I get up. I don't even have a problem with waking up, but it's the getting out of bed. It's the, as it gets colder, it's all these things. So I'm finding like, okay, Adam, you say you love God. You say you love His Word. you say you love praying and that God's changing you through it, but you're letting little things keep you from those things. Like, so just really praying for discipline to get up. And so I'm like, I got to set the alarm earlier. I got to start getting out of bed. Like, I've mentioned it, episodes in the past, like how much just, I don't want to say pressure, but just the spiritual warfare that's going on in ministry that I'm feeling and all these different things, and needing that time is vital. Like, I can feel the difference of it on a day where I really got after it, about, getting in God's word and spending time with him in prayer, and starting my days off in the way that I should for myself. And so just really challenged by Psalm 119, and hopefully, I can talk a lot, but I got to start walking it. And so,
yeah, I hear that.
I often tell people I don't want to, if we're going to say we're going to be serious about something, like, let's be serious about, like, our churches. One thing we're saying is we want to be a church that's saturated in prayer. And I'm like, okay, I hear us saying that, and I'm with you. I'm with you in that thought, but are we going to really be about it? So I'm like, let's put our money where our mouth is. And I've got to do that with a lot of things in my life. My mouth has been writing checks that the bank can't cash right now.
Yeah. And
so I've got to start getting serious with some of these things. And again, it's with our spiritual walk, we have peaks and valleys, and I wouldn't say I'm in a valley, but I'm not where I should be.
Right.
And so I'm thankful that God is being gracious and revealing these things to me. But yeah, I'm really thankful just for, the time in Psalm 119, and just God really challenging me of, Adam, where are you with me and my word? Do you love me the way, do your actions show and back up the words that you're saying? And so,
yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's something God's been challenging me in.
Man, I feel like God is like challenging me and you with the same exact thing, because that's kind of where I've been at lately. I've been, especially with See You at the Pole we just had recently here at our school, and I was just really just thinking and wrestling with this idea of prayer, and just really looking at my life and going, yeah, I don't do this near the amount that I should. Like, I should be doing it every day. Like, I even have it on my Todoist app to pray every morning, and I always look at it and groan like, I gotta get to work though. It's like I can literally just do it in 5 minutes and just wait and see what God does for the rest of the day. So that's been actually convicting me the most, is just the fact that I'm sitting here telling my students, you guys need to pray, you guys need to stop being anxious, you guys need to stop worrying, and here I am not even doing it. It's like I'm looking like a hypocrite, And so I was like, if I'm gonna do the same thing, like, we got to be serious about it. And so, wanting to get back, kind of go back to the basics a little bit, because I asked my pastor, I'm like, what do you do when you kind of feel yourself kind of out of alignment with God and stuff? He's like, just go back to the basics, man, and try to build those back up and get it started and get running with it. And so that's what I've been doing. And since prayer has been a big one that I know I need to do, I started reading. What is it? It's Spurgeon on Prayer and Spiritual Warfare, which is like 6 of his books collected into one giant collection. And so I've been reading The Power of Prayer, and just reading what he's talking about it. And man, first of all, Spurgeon, dude is sharp. Like, golly.
Understatement of the year.
I know, but like, I don't know what else to call it. But dude, it's good stuff. Either way, just reading him has been like punching me in the teeth every now and then, and it's just like, okay, keep going, come on, let's go. So combining this with See You at the Pole, which the theme verse for that was 2 Chronicles 7:14, where God is visiting Solomon, and he's telling them about his people, and he says, if my people, if the people who go by my name will humble themselves, pray and seek my face, and turn away from their wicked ways, then they will find me, or then I will be with them. And so think about that, and combined with this next part here, where he says in the first chapter, Spurgeon's talking here, and he says, quote, when the Creator gives his creature the power of thirst, it is because water exists to meet its thirst. When he creates hunger, there's food. Sorry. When he creates hunger, there's food to correspond to the appetite. Even so, when he inclines men to pray, it is because prayer has a corresponding blessing connected with it. And so I'm just thinking, God doesn't tell us to pray just because he wants us to waste our time or waste our breath or anything like that. He's telling us to pray because there's a reason for it. There's an appetite that we have where we seek after him because we need God. And people tend to, seek to fulfill that through all sorts of other things. But for we as Christians, we need to follow 2 Chronicles 7:14. I know God's talking to Solomon, but I think that what God says there is still very relevant for us today. We got to humble ourselves by recognizing who God is. And if we're going to follow him, there's some seriousness that comes with that. There's some truth that we need to be living by. And we do that by praying and seeking his face and turning away from our sin. And through that, we really see God at work in our lives. And man, I've just been thinking about that over the past few weeks, and just like, God's not going to waste my time if I pray to him. He's going to listen, and he's going to hear me out. And then he's going to respond accordingly to his will, and hopefully I'm praying within that will, and then see how that goes from there. It's just, I just really feel like I've gone far too long neglecting that specific spiritual discipline to the point where it's making me realize how far away my heart is from God and how much I've used all these other things to kind of try to bury that feeling or something. And so I guess I'm getting, I guess it's like, this is like you got Link's Awakening when we got Logan's Awakening here, I guess, or something.
Yeah. That's where our church is at. Like, God is doing a work in our church right now that's really, it's good, but it's scary. And we can tell that Satan hates it because he's bringing some different spiritual warfares in our midst, that it's extremely real, and he's trying to disrupt what God's teaching us. And I love this. One of our youth pastor preached a sermon a few weeks back on prayer, and he looked at the story where the blind Bartimaeus is like, he's crying out, "Lord, have mercy on me," which is a type of prayer. He's crying out to God,
sure,
and Jesus hears him. But he's, so he was talking about this specifics, asking God specifics in prayer, praying for them, like according to God's will and all these things. But he said, what does Jesus say when Bartimaeus is crying out to him? And Jesus says, "Well, what do you want?" Like, he cries out, he's praying to him, "Lord, have mercy," because we do that. "Lord, give me wisdom. Lord, bless us. Lord, work at this event." And Jesus is saying, "Adam, Logan, what do you want?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop speaking in generalities. There's not necessarily wrong with that. But as a good father and as your intercessor, interceding to you, to the Father, tell me what you want. If it's according to my will and it's, in alignment, he wants to give us. And so as I've been praying over the last couple of weeks, like in journal, like it's more of a, I don't want to say journal because I don't journal, but it's like a prayer log type thing.
Yeah.
And so as I've been praying more specifically, like being able to see specifically, there's probably been 5 times, 6 times in the last week where I prayed for something specifically. I messaged that person like, "Hey, I was praying this for you today." And they're like, "Dude, you don't even know. Like, that happened. As you were praying for me, I was in a meeting and that was happening."
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like,
wow.
Like, holy cow. Like, I was praying something for Hannah last week when she was in Michigan. I'm like, "Lord, pray that this thing happens for her." And I text her or talk to her later today. She's like, "Yeah, I had both of those things happen."
Bruh.
And it's just like blowing my mind seeing how God is answering the specific prayers.
Come
and I'm
on.
able to track them because I'm journaling them and I'm keeping a log. And so, God, I'm with you. God's teaching me a lot about prayer. But it takes time. I'm not always there. I'm not every morning.
Sure.
I wake up. I'm like you. I get in the office and I know the first thing George Mueller says, I can do more with 1 hour prayer and 4 hours, 1 hour prayer and then 4 hours of work than 5 hours of work with no prayer.
Wow.
And so it's an important task, but we get distracted. Like, there's been many days where I'll go and I'm like, all right, I got to just get after work. But it just takes one conversation. All of a sudden I'm distracted. I've been thrown off. And so really being diligent, if I can, to get into that before I get there. But if I don't, I need to physically get my body in a posture of prayer.
Yeah.
It's good. We're just going to forget the topic of the show. We're about to go into some prayer stuff.
I was about to say, we can just make this whole episode about prayer, because I was thinking, man, I'm like prepping a sermon for this Sunday to preach on prayer, and I'm like, bro, this is some good stuff. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah, it's so cool. We had a guest speaker from India. I don't want to say his name, not that our listeners would do anything, but he, in the 2 days that he was with us, and hopefully this is going to become a long-term relationship where we get to go and partner with him. He, again, just helped through the Holy Spirit, just get the scales off of some of our eyes when it comes to prayer, and just the challenges he was giving us, some measurables. He was saying, just think if, we have a church of about 500 people, 400 or so adults. If we each gave just 5 minutes more a day to prayer, the amount of time over a year that would be in prayer. Like, it's a crazy amount. I don't remember the exact number, but it's like a crazy amount. If our 400 adults gave 5 more minutes a day, like, that's a ton of time where we're really just interceding and ask God to work and to speak through us and to speak to us and to change our community. Like, we just don't, we live in a culture where we don't see prayer as doing something. We're addicted to doing stuff.
That's kind of where my students are.
We allow our prayer to cut our legs out, or, just to cut out our legs of our ministry because we're not willing. We don't view it as that. And it's like, Adam, if you understood God, this goes back to what I was saying about God's word. If I trusted God's word and what it says, that prayer is doing more than any activity I could ever do in reality. Yeah. I may think, I can go and do so much. First of all, I'm thinking too highly of myself. I'm thinking too less of God, and I'm thinking that I can do more than God can through my prayers. And so in different seasons of life, I've maybe got that. But I've seen a pattern more than not that it's like, well, why do I go into the office and I start doing stuff? Because I think I have to take care of stuff. But man, the days where I've started in prayer and saying, Lord, I need you. I have no idea what I'm doing today. I need your help. That he has given me grace. My brainstorming has gone faster. My ideas have come quicker. More contacts have been made. More volunteers have been recruited. All these things, God just blesses. And so now it's not to say, God just always answers the way I want, because as much as I've got answered prayers, I've got a lot of prayers that didn't go answered the way that I thought they would be, or the way I wanted, or even, entitled Adam says the way that I deserve. But God is bigger. He knows more and gives me better. And even if I understand that or not. So God is doing a work. And so I'm thankful to be a part of it. I'm thankful for the way that he's challenging me and you and just growing us and hopefully our listeners through some of the things that we're saying. Yeah, man. I would love to be perfect tomorrow, but I'm not going to be. No. And so just striving with you and the people in our churches to grow in that. If I can be better at prayer tomorrow than I was today, I'll take it.
Straight up. It's good stuff. We don't have an organ over here, so we can't be getting it. But man, dear listener, I think we just took you all to church a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So Xavier, there you go, man. There's your took you to church moment.
We gotta get that. We got the sound bites here, and with the paid Zencastr, we need to add an organ in there at some point. You can import some organ music whenever I get going. You can just insert it in the background.
There you go. I'll look into that for our next episode. You know what I'm saying? So be ready, dear listeners. We're gonna have church. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, no, man, that's good stuff. I almost want to make this episode about prayer. Maybe we'll have to do a bonus episode where we do just talk about prayer, and then we just all of a sudden it makes a revival. People are listening to this in the Walmart because dear listeners are telling people. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, cool, good stuff, man. Love it, loving it. Dear listeners, get out there and pray. You know what I'm saying? Right, roll out there with us. So in case you couldn't tell by the name of this episode, we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda. Not any specific game necessarily, just the series, because Link's Awakening came out recently. Me and Adam are both digging it. And we did an episode on The Legend of Zelda series long time ago in the first year that we did the show, and it was about like 30, 40 minutes, and we didn't really get too deep or anything like that. But so you can go listen to that if you want. It's out there on the internet. But we just want to talk about really the series, kind of our interaction with it, what our first game was, and what makes the series special, really. So we're not going to get into the history of the series or anything like that, but we're just going to, I guess, just not necessarily celebrate the series, but I guess just reminisce. You get the idea. You guys will figure it out as we go along. But I threw some stuff out here for our patrons, and I totally spaced on getting it out there for social media. So we'll read this stuff from our patrons, just getting some information from them, like what was their interactions with it, what do they think of the games and stuff like that. So over on Patreon, Micah Hendrick writes, I was a huge fan of the original on NES. It was the quintessential share notes with your friends game back then. So many secrets you had to figure out as a group and then share. From there, I didn't play another one until Twilight Princess, which I loved. Breath of the Wild rounds out the 3 Zelda games I've played. Not super familiar with the series, but enjoy it well enough to dabble from time to time. Good stuff, man. Jeff Wofford also writes on Patreon, Legend of Zelda was the first game I ever really played with others. I'm noticing a theme here. We're playing it with friends. I remember me and my dad and 2 close friends would talk about where we were at, how we solved puzzles, and items we had found. A Link to the Past was the first game I played where I was mesmerized by the story. From revenge for my uncle to rescuing Zelda from Aghanim, then being blown away at the Dark World, Link's Awakening was the first game to make me misty-eyed. Falling in love with a whole new world of characters, and then that ending. Now I just want to get to the end of the game. I don't know what's going to happen. But Jeff continues on and says, then I grew up and moved from a Super Nintendo to a PlayStation and lost track of Link, Zelda, and Ganon. It wasn't until I bought the Switch and Breath of the Wild at launch that I played another in the series. I fell in love all over again. I was reminded of how fun it is to play when you are trying to find what is over the next hill and not following a quest marker. That stories don't have to be complex to be moving. The 4 heroes who gave their life to hold back the darkness long enough for the hero to rescue the princess. Needless to say, I can't wait to dig back into Link's Awakening. Here's hoping more classics come to the Switch so I can enjoy them for the first time. And I kind of had a similar thing with Breath of the Wild, because I moved off to Xbox and stuff after Nintendo and all that. But man, yeah, Breath of the Wild, what a game. What a game, dude. So
we forget how good it is. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so jazzed for whenever the second one comes out. Like, it's going to be so freaking good.
It's going to be good. It is going to be good. Man, good stuff. Now we've got some other reactions over here on our Discord channel, but we'll get to those kind of as we continue the conversation here. But let's start it off, man, Adam, because I know for you now, when you joined the podcast and joined the Facebook group, was that when you were first exposed to Legend of Zelda? Kind of walk me through that.
Now, it's to a degree, yes, the good Zeldas.
Okay.
And so,
okay.
I mean, I remember as a kid playing Zelda on the Nintendo. So, Zelda 1, which is more of the, top-down Zelda. So I remember playing that, but I never played it to, like, beat it. It was like, oh, I'm switching out Nintendo games every 5 minutes, just dabbling around. Like, I didn't know enough at that point to try to, like, I just went around and, again, it was Zelda. You have to figure out puzzles, and I didn't care enough to try to figure that out. I give my nephew a hard time, now for not wanting to play the games, like, other than, like, he's getting there, but, like, Skylanders where you just kind of walk around and you do this or that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when are you going to get into good games? But that was like me when I was his age, if not even worse. I would play Zelda. But I just kind of walked around, killed stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'm bored, put in a different game. So I played the original Zelda on the Nintendo. And then I played the Link to the Past, or not Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda 2, whatever that one is, which was like...
That was on
again,
NES, yeah.
Yeah, the NES. So played a lot of that also, but in the same vein of... never really knew what I was doing. I knew it was super hard. It was super confusing. I knew I always had to get, my brother played it a decent amount. Like, and he actually, I think, had an idea of what he was doing. And, it's funny looking back at that because my brother, he would play a sports game now. Like, he used to get into video games like us, or like me. But he would never, as he got older, have been caught playing like an adventure game. He was only sports. But when we were growing up, like, he was into Zelda 2 and stuff like that. And so I remember watching him play, but I always knew, like, okay, I'm supposed to find some candle so I can go in these dungeons so that I can see. But I would never do that. So I would be going, and that was when like your enemies would just kind of pop up, and you had to kind of get through them or get to the end of the world so you could keep on. If you got off the yellow brick road, basically, that's when the enemies would start attacking you. So it was definitely a challenge. So those were like my first two experiences really with Zelda, and they weren't necessarily great ones. They were just games that I played.
Yeah.
But then as I, just got older or whatever, then when I came back from living overseas and got in the Facebook group, and I'm like, all right, everybody's talking about these Zelda games. I know that they're great. I've got to find a way to get into them.
Yeah,
so at that point, I found a way, wheeling and dealing. The 3DS was the best way, so I got me a 3DS, and that's when the just downhill from there. Playing all of the different. I think at this point I haven't played all of them,
right?
But I played Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. I had a Wii U. So I was able to play some Wind Waker. I didn't finish Wind Waker because I didn't want to hunt down all the shards.
Yeah, I hear that.
So I quit that one. But I to a degree, I wish I would have. I think I probably could have if I didn't have a friend. He's like, you have to find like 16 of them, and there used to be 32 on the GameCube. And I'm like, oh, I ain't got time for that. So if he probably wouldn't have told me all that I had to do, I probably would have forced my way through it. So played Wind Waker, played what's the one with the wolf?
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess. Played that one on the Wii U. I have Skyward. I literally own Skyward Sword. I've got it at my house, but never really got a Wii to play it. I never got around to playing it on my Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And I played Breath of the Wild on my 3DS. I played Link to the Past. So I went hard for a while on Zeldas. I've got to play a lot of them at this point, but I never. I played Phantom Hourglass.
Oh yeah.
Was not that bad. It kind of had the cartoony look.
Mm-hmm.
It had the boat. It was very from the similar vein of Wind Waker. I enjoyed it. I had Spirit Tracks, but I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. So I, bought that and sold it pretty quickly. So I've really got to play. I've wanted to play Minish Cap. There was a while when I hacked my phone or something like that. I had some emulator or something on it. And not that we support those on this podcast by any means.
Right.
But I was trying to find a way to play Minish Cap, but it just wasn't working out. So, so I've got to play a majority of them, but I haven't played them all. But I'm really glad that, I always heard about Link's Awakening, and I'm like, I'll probably never get around to playing this. So when it got announced, I was super excited about it. So far, I've only enjoyed it.
Right on, man. Well, real quick, dear listeners, before we continue on the conversation, just want to let you know, at any point while you're listening to this podcast, feel free to let us know what your first Legend of Zelda was, what kind of has been your experience with the series on our social media platforms, on Twitter at TRG Podcast, the Facebook page, Facebook group, and even Instagram, Instagram.com/TheReformedGamers, or on YouTube if you're listening there. So I'll get to mine here in a second, but Wesley gave us a pretty good breakdown of the games, and it's crazy to see just how many Zelda games there are out there. There's just so many, and I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to play them all. But he says that Link's Awakening is the best Zelda game, and that he's been beating this drum for 20 years. Hot take indeed. Henshin Dad. We'll see how that goes. But he says Zelda 1 is okay. Zelda 2 is really good if you approach it as a platformer instead of a Zelda game, which doesn't sound like a Zelda game at that point, but okay. Link to the Past is legendary, and I will agree. I just finished playing that recently, and it's still good.
Oh, I forgot about A Link Between Worlds. I played that one also.
That's another good one. I did play that. That's a good one. He says Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are excellent, but needed those 3DS remakes to be the best they could be. I agree with that. Oracle games are good, underappreciated. Wind Waker is GOAT. Well, now, wait a minute. You can't have Wind Waker as GOAT and then have Link's Awakening as the best one. That doesn't. That's a logical fallacy, Wesley. You're going to have to flip a coin. Twilight Princess is okay. Skyward Sword is not as okay. All right. Breath of the Wild.
Well, there's a lot of issues for that. Mainly, I think from what I understand, it's a lot of the motion controls. So if again, we'll get into it later. I'll save my thoughts.
All right. The Twilight Princess, or the Breath of the Wild's fantastic. Minish Cap can die in a fire. Wow. And then,
harsh.
Man, dude, that's
tell us how you really feel.
That's very harsh indeed, man. What else do we got on here? Minish Cap, 4 Swords is alright if you have a group. Oh yeah, that was that 4-player one, I think. It says he hasn't played Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks yet, so yeah. But wow. And then you got yeah, no, that's it. Is that right? Oh, that's me quoting it. But yeah. Then you have David Matthews in there saying that he liked Minish Cap. He's like, maybe I'm just weird, but nah, man, you roll with that. You roll with that. My first experience with the game, though, to kind of go with that and round out this section. I first played Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo. I played A Link to the Past. I had that, and I never finished it. So that's why I was super excited to play it on the Switch, because I was like, oh, I actually get to finish it now. I could have done it on my SNES Classic, but whatever, Switch is better. Hashtag poop and play. But, so I got to finish it on there, really enjoyed that game. But that's where I started. And then really the next one I played was, I did dabble in Link's Awakening a little bit on my Game Boy, but didn't get very far because I think I got the first dungeon, and then after that I was done. But then my first one that I really put time into and beat was Ocarina of Time, and I was like, man, I remember getting that game too. I remember getting it with my N64, and when I got it, I went to this Game Exchange. Shout out to Game Exchange for those of you that know what that is. It was kind of like I guess not a partner, an opponent, rivalry or whatever of GameStop, competitor. That's the word I'm looking for. And I remember going in, getting the N64, telling them I want Ocarina of Time. Everyone has told me to get this game. And they give it to me, and it came in the gold cartridge. And I'm like, dude, this is a gold cartridge. How legit is this game? And I remember playing it and just my mind being blown when I was just at that age playing it. I was like, man, this is what games can be. Wow, there's story, there's epic moments, there's some sad stuff going on. There's just a lot of, it just felt epic, it just felt different from everything I had been playing, and it was just really, really cool to play. I never got to really play Majora's Mask until it came out on the 3DS, and even then I was like, I don't know how I'm feeling about this one. So I didn't really put a whole lot of time into that one, but Ocarina of Time, it's very trippy, very somber too, very, very depressing game. But I would say Ocarina of Time was where it really started for me, was kind of what got me into the series first and foremost. Just still, what a really cool game. And I enjoyed playing that even on the 3DS when they did the remake. It's just really cool. So it's always been fascinating to me, this idea that this hero goes up against really just whatever kind of darkness it is, and he's a silent protagonist. He doesn't really complain. He just goes for it because he just feels called to do it. And I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like Link is like the embodiment of a hero, as he's ready to stare down evil. It doesn't even matter how scary they are. He's like, I'm gonna take them down. It's kind of like that scene in Endgame where Captain America is staring down Thanos' army, is like, let's go to work, and Link's the same way. And I really just have really always been charmed by that, I guess. Just how the game looks, Link as a character, and just the different things that are going on. It's just a really interesting series that has always kind of been really, really cool to play. Now, with that being said, there's been a lot of games in this series. We just went through some of them. And so this might be hard to pick just one. But out of all the ones that we have played, and I guess I'll say this too, I did play Twilight Princess. I played Skyward Sword for about an hour, and I'm not a fan of motion controls, but if they put it on Switch, I'll play it again. I did play Wind Waker on the Wii U. Loved that one. Great stuff. Breath of the Wild is great. Now playing Link's Awakening. I'm sure I'm forgetting some games. But yeah, so this is probably going to be hard to pick. And dear listeners, you let us know, what's your favorite Legend of Zelda game, Adam, out of the whole series? If you can pick one, which one's your favorite? I
can definitely pick one. I'll give you my top 3.
Okay, we'll do top 3.
Breath of the Wild is by far, in my opinion, the best.
Okay.
Zelda game, probably I don't know, top 10 game of all time for me. Like I can't,
Wow.
when I start thinking about that game, like, it was just so good.
Yeah.
Like it was so good. And so I should, it's one of those things where I'd love to go back and play it again, but because of all the games, I never will. But to think about the hype for the second one, whenever it comes out, it's going to be so crazy good.
Oh yeah.
So as much as I like the other ones, for me, I just don't even, it's just hard to even compare. I mean, Breath of the Wild was so good. It did so many things right.
Yeah.
So it's probably by far number one. Now you start getting to the mud and some of the other ones. I really enjoyed Link Between Worlds.
Yeah,
and so
that was a good one.
That game was fantastic. Just what they did with some of the going into the the walls and the cracks and things like that, and going in between the dark world, light world, some of the stuff like that. So that's a great one. I mean, you start looking at your other 3D ones. Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time. I don't know. Ocarina of Time was not Majora's Mask. So I probably, I don't know, Twilight Princess or Ocarina.
Ooh, here we go. Get some like music.
I don't know.
Do.
I'd probably have to go with Ocarina as number 3.
Yeah,
Twilight Princess was great. The wolf stuff was kind of cool, so that'd probably be my top 3 is Breath of the Wild. And then you could swap 2 or 3 between Link Between Worlds or Ocarina. I don't really care about that order, but Breath of the Wild is easily, in my opinion, the best Zelda ever made.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you, man. Like, I remember playing it and just being like, my mind was just blown at how much stuff that they got right. And it's one of those games. And again, I brought this up when I was talking about Control a little bit in the review, I think. Maybe I was just thinking about it and I didn't write it down. But like, the map in Breath of the Wild is so stinking good. And I love that game challenged you to explore the world, and then it rewarded you for doing so, and just thinking of all sorts of different ways to navigate the world and to get to different points, and using the game's physics to do it. And you can do some really crazy bonkers stuff in that game. You can go look it up on YouTube, dear listeners. There's some, man, it's some crazy stuff with how creative people can get with
the
it.
physics-based stuff that they did. Just unlocking the full map was like a game in itself.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can't go on and do anything until I can see everything. But I was so under-leveled and unprepared in some of those areas. It was like a mini game. I'm like, okay, if I climb to that, I can potentially drift to get halfway there. But then, okay, these guys are shooting me. Like, do I have enough stamina? Unlocking the map was fun.
Yeah.
And how often is that the case? You're usually annoyed by that.
Yeah,
but that was a fun part of that game in and of itself.
Man, and it's so good. And I liked what Jeff said a lot about just the story of it. And I remember when the game came out, some people were like, oh, the story is like weak, it's thin, it's not really there. And I'm like, I don't know. The story's there. And yeah, you do got to go around and take some pictures of stuff, but you get snippets of it. And man, I think they proved with this game that the story can be simple, but it's effective. And man, Jeff hit it on the head there with those 4 heroes, sacrificing themselves to protect the land, and it's still being, man, it's such a cool story. It's such a cool game. Definitely my favorite. As far as my top 3, though, I mean, definitely Breath of the Wild's up there. I would say not Twilight Princess. I struggle with Twilight Princess quite a bit. I felt that one was just a little too long, and there was some stuff. The darkness stuff, the Twilight stuff, kind of bothered me a little bit because it got dark at times, Yeah. And I'm not talking with the color palette. I'm talking like with just the different events that went on, the characters and stuff. Man, it wasn't afraid to kind of go there. Not that that's necessarily bad, but man, it was a little unsettling, at least for me. So I would probably say definitely Ocarina of Time, just for nostalgia purposes. It's really what started it all. For me. So definitely, okay, so we got Breath of the Wild, we got Ocarina of Time. I would probably even put Wind Waker in there. I really
that's probably a popular opinion. A lot of people like it.
So I really liked it. And Nate McKeever actually says here in our Discord, That his personal favorite is Wind Waker. He said that he played it when he was overseas in the early 2000s, and he loves the aesthetic of the Toon Link universe, the whole playing a cartoon kind of vibe that it has. He loved the sailing, the loneliness, but I guess the isolation of being out on the water and the eeriness of that cel-shaded ocean still gets to me. I hear that, man. I used to have a fear of sharks being in the pool, so I can kind of understand that a little bit. But yeah, it's cool stuff. Luke also wrote, and I forgot to read this one. He says that he loves Zelda games for two reasons. Link's Awakening and Ocarina of Time were two of the first video games he had ever played, and he has really fond memories of Ocarina of Time. He remembers the first time he fought Dodongo as a kid and thinking, how the heck can I beat something so big? But now he says that he plays it with his wife. Twilight Princess is the first game that she ever beat, which she did on her own before they even started dating. And when a new game comes out, they always play it together, taking turns, or with them coaching one another. Even though Skyward Sword is considered a dud by most, and he says in parentheses unjustly, it was the first game that they played together, so it has a special place in his heart, which is cool stuff.
Well, just think about it. We're talking about games that were like 9.5s, 9s, at the maybe an 8.5 at the worst for some of them.
Yeah.
So we're trying to measure games, and you're really splitting hairs.
It's really
you play any of these and you're not really going to go wrong.
It's really like cheesecake is what it is. It's all good. Just one has some different toppings than the other one. So
yeah,
and
if you get the plain one, the plain is just as good.
Still
as
just
sometimes
as good.
Adding the flavor.
Yeah, it's still just as good. Or it might not even be plain. You bite into it and there's like chocolate chips in there, and you're like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. I feel like that's what Breath of the Wild was. It was just constantly getting a little bite of a chocolate chip, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is in the game and you can do this? Man,
when you were talking about it earlier, that was exactly what I was thinking is, man, the more, again, just thinking about the surprises that you found in that game. You never knew what you were going to find. You're like, oh, there's an island over there. How do I get to that island? Then you get to the island and you're like, holy cow.
Yeah. I
have nothing, and I have to figure out how to.
I was wondering if you were talking about that island.
Mind blown. There was 25 of those moments where you're playing and you're like, I can't believe that this is happening this way.
Yeah.
So it was such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Such a cool experience. Like, I didn't put the hours in, of course, that Jay Steele put in. But
he's sitting at like 490 hours. I checked it the other day. I was like, dang, dude.
Yeah, I think I was probably, I don't know, maybe 85, 90, something like that.
Yeah.
And I got most of the stuff. I didn't do the Korok seeds or whatever, but there's so much more that you could always do. And then the master trials and all the different, like the DLC and stuff. What a masterpiece.
Straight up. And we're sitting here talking about that, and I'm thinking back to playing A Link to the Past just a few weeks ago. And even then, and I think this is something that really just the series tends to do so well, is surprising you with these hidden things in the game. I remember playing A Link to the Past a few weeks ago and getting the flute, which, by the way, my goodness, even on the Super Nintendo, they were telling stories that made me tear up with the flute kid in the dark world, and he just wanted to play his flute, and he plays it again for the last time, and he turns into a tree, and then he tells you to give it back to his grandpa. Oh my gosh, dude. Literally, dear listeners, you can't see this. I got tears in my eyes right now thinking of that story because it's a good story. But you go and you play it, you take the flute back to the grandfather, and he tells you to go play it at the statue. So you go and do it in the light world, and then the rooster breaks apart and becomes this fast-traveling thing that takes you around the map. And I remember getting that, and my mind was just blown. Because for one, I was thinking Super Nintendo, they're not going to have a fast travel system because it's a Super Nintendo. I'm not going to throw that against them. But then it's there. And I'm like, how is this game on... How is this in here on the Super Nintendo? Like, my mind was just blown. And then finding out how to get the gold sword, or no, it was the tempered sword and the silver arrows. You drop them into this fairy fountain that you find by doing all sorts of different things. And just like... I think that's one of the things that makes this series stand out so much is that, or just does so well, is that like it just has a way of surprising you without you really seeing it come, which I guess if you saw it coming, it wouldn't be a surprise, but you get the idea. It has a way of surprising you with different things that's just so cool. It just doesn't. You don't really see that kind of stuff in other games. And I mean, we have fast travel systems now, but I don't know about Super Nintendo days if you had that. That was just something that's really cool. And even just in Breath of the Wild, it's just cool to play a game and you think, well, what happens if I do this? And then you do it, and then you get rewarded for it. It's just, I think that's something that this series just does incredibly, incredibly well. And I think that's why so many people are enamored by it, because it just rewards experimenting with the game itself. And so I've kind of dipped into this topic a little bit here that we have on the notes here. You know, what makes the series stand out to us. That's definitely one of mine. Dear listeners, you can always let us know on Twitter or Facebook. But Adam, man, what kind of makes the series stand out to you as just great?
Yeah. I mean, when I think of Zelda games, I think of their ability to implement puzzles and not let them be a distraction.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a part of the world. Okay, I've got again, you go back to the OG ones, you go back to the NES ones. There's a linear order of things that you kind of got to do. But once you get that puzzle solved, you kind of, okay, you know what the next little bit. So it's like, oh, I unlocked the hook shot. Okay, now I know I'm going to be using it sooner or later on this boss, most likely. And the way they just make those things fall into place when they're dungeons. I mean, dungeons are something that Zelda has just always done. The overworld's always a good time. But you know, when you get in the dungeon, you're like, okay, there's going to be some good challenge here. There's going to be some puzzles. There's going to be secrets.
You got to put your thinking cap on. Yeah, man.
And so, for better or worse, sometimes I'm like, I just want to get through this. I don't want to have to solve a puzzle again. That's fine. I'm not a purist. I'll pull out a walkthrough to help me on some of them just because, ain't nobody got time for all these puzzles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what makes Zelda special. And, again, even seeing those in Breath of the Wild where you've got an open world. Again, the puzzles weren't as – I mean, you had the shrines. So there were some puzzle aspects in the shrines. But even as I was saying with, like, opening up the map, they were almost like little puzzles. Okay, how am I going to plan out getting XYZ thing done when I'm very underleveled? I don't have enough stamina.
Yeah. Okay,
well, I'm going to climb there. I can see it. I can get to it, basically. In Breath of the Wild, I can climb there. And seeing the way that they, again, the puzzle is almost a part of the storytelling. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I think of when I'm thinking of Zelda games. Like, of course, you have Link going to always save the princess and just that character being iconic. But really just the way that the storytelling is always real interesting. I find interesting. Yeah. And then the puzzling and the solutions and the critical thinking you got to do and all these different things. They really, if I'm buying a Zelda game, I know I'm getting into some puzzling. And, even with the, what was the one where you could play it on the 3DS? I played it where it's like you could do multiplayer where the other person didn't have to download the game.
Four Swords?
Shoot. Four Swords, yeah. Again,
like
just puzzles and something like that where, okay, I know I'm going to be solving this, but then they brought in the multiplayer aspect of that, of getting to work with others and stuff. So
yeah, man.
Just, it's a good time. It's always, it's a good challenge, but it's never overtly like Bloodborne. Now, you get into Breath of the Wild, there are moments that you're like, okay, this is kind of hard if you're not equipped.
Especially if you're fighting the Guardians. Oh, man.
For sure. And so, but in general, it's like it's a good challenge, but it's never over the top.
Yeah.
It's never over the top.
Man, listening to you kind of describe the game in that way has just made me think of this. Like, when you play Hollow Knight, as you play it and as you're kind of going through it, in a way, as the Hollow Knight himself, the character you're playing as, gets better, you're kind of getting better with the character. So you're getting stronger, and you have this sense of like empowerment almost as you play. And so it pushes you to play more. And I think really a lot of that probably started with Legend of Zelda. As you're figuring out these puzzles and you're getting these upgrades, you're kind of growing with Link and you're getting stronger. And in a way, you're definitely getting more empowered to play. That's certainly how I felt when I was playing both Breath of the Wild and A Link to the Past. Especially when I figured out a dungeon after getting a tool. I was like there's one, for example, you get the hook shot and I was like, oh yeah, now I can go back to this part of the dungeon, use the hook shot there to get across. And then you do that, and then you get further, you get to the end of the dungeon, you beat the boss, and you're like, dude, that right there gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a great aspect of it. And just what a good testament to just good game design, even just getting you to think and use your tools and really kind of think outside of the box, especially with Breath of the Wild. But yeah, good stuff, man. Really just good stuff. Great game design, just all around. Except maybe the water temple in Ocarina of Time, because water levels are terrible. But yeah, definitely. So dear listeners, like you said, let us know what kind of makes the games stand out to you on our social medias. As we kind of round out the thing here, let's get into this a little bit, because what's been nice about Link's Awakening is being able to play a game from the past on a platform that we all have. It's current, it's modern, and we can play it on the go. And it got a new coat of, well, it got more than just a new coat of paint. I would say it got a brand new house with a brand new fence and everything. So it's been cool to be able to play this game and have a more modern version of it. And I think we all as gamers would agree that this is really a good thing. We like this thing, especially with Resident Evil 2 Remake coming out earlier this year. That was great to revisit that game, but completely new almost, and completely modern. And now we get to do that with Link's Awakening. So, man, I wonder, is there any Zelda game that you want to get, or that you want it to get the remaster treatment, kind of like Link's Awakening? Maybe not similar art style, but at least get a remaster or a remake of sorts, to where maybe they go in and fix some of the issues and add some new features and update it a little bit. Is there any game in the series that you want to see updated for the modern generation?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of hinting at it and wanting to say it the whole day, whole evening, but I don't know how. For me, the answer is anything other than Skyward Sword. Give a game a chance that no one gave a chance. I mean, it was towards the end of the Wii life span. There was a billion Wiis out there, but I still don't know how many people played it. Maybe the diehards, and of course, I wasn't a diehard at that point, but I think give it the remaster, fix the controls, tell the same story, gloss over the graphics, clean it up. I mean, even if you just gave the Wii U treatment, just update those graphics like you did with, Wind Waker from GameCube to Wii U. Do that even Wii to Wii U. Update the controls. I think that would be. I would buy that in a heartbeat. Like, I don't know why. It's just like, there's a 3D Zelda that I don't really have a great way to play. I mean, there's Wii U's everywhere, but I'm not realistically going to go plug in a Wii U to play it, especially with motion controls.
Yeah.
But that's probably the easy one. If I'm thinking outside the box, like, again, you think of either Zelda 2, Link 2, whatever it's called on the NES. Like, that would be an interesting one. A game that was pretty hard, that was confusing, that had its challenges. How they would go about do that? Would they keep it kind of top-down, side-scroller, platforming, all of those different things? Or would they give it a complete rehaul where you're telling the same story but in a different feel, different layout? Again, do we go 3D? Do we go top-down? Do we go, what is it, 2.5 or something like that?
Oh, yeah, 2.5D.
Like over the shoulder.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting one. I don't ever see that one probably happening. But as a game that a lot of people have a lot of memories with, and more of them being this game was hard, impossible, and so on, what if they did that one? So that would be the interesting one, but the one that I want is Skyward Sword, no doubt.
Straight up. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be one that I would like to see get remastered too, just because I remember playing maybe an hour of it and not getting too far into it. And I would like to see that. I think, though, I want to say A Link to the Past, but I don't know. I want to be a little different. But it would be cool to see A Link to the Past get remade like Link's Awakening, just to kind of clean up the stuff a little bit, add some new features like marking the map and doing all that. Maybe add in some secrets. That would be cool. I think I would agree with Skyward Sword. I know some folks want to do Minish Cap. Really, I think we just all want all the games to be remade at this point.
Yeah.
But and this is going to be kind of weird because I've played this one and I didn't really get into it on the 3DS, but I kind of want to see Majora's Mask get remastered for the Switch or something. And I know that's weird because it's on the 3DS, but like, I don't know. I want to see what it would look like. Kind of spruced up, fancied up a little bit, and re-released on the Switch. Because I want to give it another shot because I feel like I played it during a time where I was just kind of playing it just to play it because it was the game at the time. And I didn't really get into it. But that's one that I would like to see get kind of remade again. And I know some people are probably like, yeah, I'll be honest. The game that probably deserves it more is A Link to the Past. But I would want to see Majora's Mask again. I want to give it another shot. I want to see what it would look like. But whether or not that's going to happen is completely up to Nintendo. So, but dear listeners, you let us know on our social medias at TRG Podcast and the Facebook page, Facebook group, Instagram, even here on YouTube if you're listening there, which one you want to get the remaster treatment, and let us know. Now, not everyone that has played a Zelda game has had a good time with it. Our own dear editor, which may be our former dear editor after I read this. No, I'm kidding, Skinner, calm down. He says he's just been kind of meh on the series, mostly because his first experience was the first one, and coming on the heels of the first Ninja Turtles game, just kind of seemed lackluster. Ocarina of Time was fun, but it suffers from the same convoluted storyline issues that Metal Gear does. Full disclosure, I did not finish either game. I think you could understand Legend of Zelda way better than you can Metal Gear.
No doubt.
Just saying.
I love seeing the different timelines that people are like, they try to fit all of the games into this timeline. I'm like, stop. There's no timeline. I don't care what they tell me. They're just random games.
Yeah.
Some of them may be more than others, but it's, yeah.
Yeah. But Alex Castellanos is kind of the same way. He can't finish the games either. He just has a hard time getting into the games. Which, I mean, hey, that's your own personal style. You know, that's different tastes. You know, that's fine. You're wrong, but but hopefully, you know, after listening to this, it's kind of encouraged you to go back and play some of those games and maybe try them out and give them another shot and see where that goes. But yeah, dear listeners, like I said, you let us know about your personal experience with Legend of Zelda on our social media stuff, just anywhere and everywhere. And let us know what you think. It's a great series. I'm looking forward to finishing Link's Awakening. Honestly, might boot up Breath of the Wild after we get done recording this. So we'll see how it goes. But we kind of forgot to do this at the end of the last episode. And we'll just have to get better at it. You know what happens? We're not perfect. That's why you pray for us. And we'll see what we do. You know what I'm saying? Just call back to the early part of the show. But yeah, so this is a part where we thank our patrons, the lovely, lovely dear patrons over on patreon.com/thereforumgamers who pledge money each month to support the show and help us continue doing what we're doing to even expand to a certain degree, whether that's with YouTube or writing articles or different things like that. And so we greatly appreciate their support, their pledging, and we want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts right here, right now, on the show. And those people are Alex Castellanos, Andrew Steedman with the Reverence and Awesomeness podcast. Go listen to them. Great stuff. Austin Godot, Caleb Schmidt, Christopher Commander, Cole Loftus, Colin Gregory, David Matthews, Derek Smith, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Jake Walker, James Barker, Jeff Wofford, Jesse Penu, Joanne, it's cutting off your last name. I'm going to guess it's Monroe. Yes, Joanne Monroe, Josh Broccolo, Kiefer Winborn, Clay Brandon, Luke Strain, Mark Fromey, Matthew White Chocolate McDougal, Micah Hendrick, Michael Toller, Nate McKeever, Ryan 1701E, the Jet Islander podcast, Wesley Ray, and Xavier Medina. Guys, thank you so much for your support over on patreon.com, for hanging out with us in the Patreon Discord and all that fun stuff. We really appreciate your support, appreciate hanging out with you guys, and it's always a good time. Like I said, dear listeners, you can always support us on patreon.com if you so wish, but if you cannot, then no worries. Just leave a rating and review on your podcast app of choice, because that helps out a long way. Now, the part where we let you know some things you got to check out. Reco's. Adam, man, what should the dear listeners check out?
Yeah, I posted this in the group sometime last week. So, friend of the show, Facebook group member, he's been on the podcast, Clay Hargrave. He talked about board games and kind of all that world. Him and a mentor from college, Adam Hill, created a board game picked up by Pandasaurus Games, which is a legit company, put on Kickstarter of a goal of $30,000. They're now at over $155,000, awesome. So they're killing it.
Yep, I helped
the
back
game's
that.
called Godspeed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of the space race. It's kind of, they've got some cool backstory stuff going on. But check it out if you're interested, if you're into board games. They've already reached a ton of stretch goals, so I'm super excited for them. It's weird saying you're proud of your mentor, but just proud of them, excited for them, thankful. So we may have to get Clay on here again, maybe bring Adam on also to talk about it. Man. But he shared a little bit about it when he was on the show. We can probably find what episode it was, but he couldn't tell us much because they were signed. And you go back and listen to the episode if you're interested. It's funny seeing the evolution of the game. It was not originally about space. It's really interesting seeing how they rewrote a lot of it. I don't know if it rewrite is but kind of adapted the game.
Reworked, maybe? I don't know.
Once they got signed. But yeah, it's super cool and exciting for them because I know they put, I like board games, but these guys love board games. Their life they are all about it. But it's super cool just seeing them crushing it. So again, Godspeed on Kickstarter. Check it out. I've never paid so much for a board game, but I'm willing to do it for some friends.
Welcome to
support them.
Welcome to the board game world, man. You get used to it. Fun fact, dear listeners, I just looked it up. If you want to listen to that episode where Clay was on there, it's episode 126. It's literally called Tabletop Gaming with Clay Hargrave. You can go listen to that. If I remember to put it in the show notes, I'll put it in there. But just so you know, episode 126. But yeah, cool stuff. As soon as you posted that, I was like, I'm backing that immediately. Because one, it's because Clay got me kind of hyped when he was on here. And I'd been waiting for it, but man, even just the premise just sounds cool. Space race in an alternate universe, kind of. Sign me up, dude. Plus, me and the wifey really love tabletop games, so we'll totally get into it. But yeah, as far as my recos go, we kind of went over this with what have you been reading in that section there. But yeah, pray, jump into it, see what happens. Get curious, kind of wonder what would happen if you prayed, and then seek after God and see what happens. And go from there. Another reco I want to throw out there is a book I finished recently called Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. This book, words are so hard. This book came out in 2013, so probably most of you guys have read it. But if you haven't, it's a really cool book. Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite writers. He's one of my favorite fiction writers, I should say. Mistborn was fantastic. Steelheart's great. It basically takes place in a world where there's superheroes, but they're all supervillains. There are no heroes. And so they're kind of dominating humans, and you have this faction trying to stop them. And it's a cool book. I won't go any further because you really got to read it for yourself. Really, really cool take on the whole superhero thing. So definitely check that out. Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. My last reco, and I almost forgot to mention this. Pocket Cast. Here's the thing, dear listeners. I'm going to preface it with this. We're not being sponsored by them. We're not being paid by them. I'm just saying this because I really love the app. The thing is with Pocket Cast, it used to be, I think, like $4 or $5. They went to a new model where it's free, and you can get it for free. You can get like a plus subscription if you want. Definitely check it out, especially for those of you that are still using the Apple Podcasts app. You are limiting yourself. You could be in a whole new world and listening to podcasts like never before and having so many tools at your disposal so that you can enjoy podcasts a whole lot better and in a much better way by checking out Pocket Cast. It's free now, so definitely go check it out because I paid for it. The thing I found out was when they went to this change, if you paid for it, they gave you 3 years of Plus for free, and I'm like, oh, awesome. But then I guess they got some feedback, and then a couple of days later they emailed everybody who had bought the app. It was like, okay, so we're moving it from 3 years. You're going to have it for life. And I'm like, what? So great company. They support their consumers. Definitely check it out. Like I said, especially if you're using the Apple Podcast app still, you're limiting yourself. Get your life together. Go check out Pocket Cast.
Don't tell me what to do, man.
I will tell you what to do, Adam. You tell me not to buy games and manage my backlog all the time. I will tell you to get a better podcast app. And plus, it's free. It's free. You don't lose anything just by trying it out. Just try it out.
Can I download podcasts on my Apple Watch, though? on the Pocket Cast. That's the biggest reason I went back to Apple Podcasts is I can download it and not have to have my phone nearby. For my Apple Watch.
I don't know.
That was a big deal.
I don't know because I don't know what all they've done with this new update. So maybe, I don't know. Adam, it's free. Try it out and download it. See what you think. See if you get it to work and then let us know. But yeah,
man,
like I said,
doesn't got answers.
That's what I do. I try to do my best by pretending.
I bet Jonathan Steele would have the answers because I know he's a big fan. Also,
he could probably let you know because he let me know about the update to the.
Sure, he's got an Apple Watch also.
Just saying. Adam, it's like what we said at the beginning of the show, man. We in ministry, we just like to pretend that we know what we're doing and we just go from there. Oh man, I'm a wreck. Anyway, dear listeners, like I said, thank you for checking out this episode of the Reformed Gamers. If you'd like to interact with us, if you'd like to support the show, we've already talked about Patreon. You can go there, patreon.com/thereformedgamers. Check out the YouTube content over on youtube.com/thereformedgamers. Definitely check that out with Legend of Zelda. Anything else that we're going to be putting up, whatever just kind of comes to mind. I would definitely check out the website, the new articles we've got up there as well, thereformedgamers.com. It has links to literally everything from there to YouTube, the show, articles. It's all on the website. It just gives you a good avenue to get everything. You can also follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can rock with us on there. You can like us on the Facebook page, and you can join the Facebook group as well. So, and follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/thereformedgamers. You'll see it. But yeah, dear listeners, thank you again for checking out the show. Thank you again for checking out this episode. And until next time, GG and amen. Thank you for listening to The Reformed Gamers, the show all about biblical theology and gaming. The reason the show sounds so good inside your ears is because TRG is edited by David Skinner. You can find extra content on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thereformedgamers. The Reformed Gamers is entirely fan-supported over at patreon.com/thereformedgamers by our dear patrons. The following people are at the producer level or higher and will forever be thanked and mentioned here at the end of the show, as long as their pledge comes through each month. Those people are Alex Castellanos, David Matthews, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Luke Strain, and Wesley Ray. Thank you for your support over on patreon.com, keeping our controllers charged, and fueling my addictive habit of getting platinum trophies. Until next time, GG and amen.